An alien with a predator hot on its trail. Here's your look at the Hiya Toys AVP Alien vs. Predator Thermal Vision Alien Warrior. Exquisite Mini is a new standard settings series for 1/18th scale, featuring super articulation action figures under Hiya Toys. If you're not yet sold on this alien who's both hot and cold, maybe this review will help. First of all, I'd like to thank the folks over at Hiya Toys that did provide this sample of the Thermal Vision alien that we could have a look at in this review. Grabbing now the ruler. Hot and cold alien. It just gets worse and worse on this channel. The figure stands 5 inches in height, or he's 12.5 centimeters tall. Bad jokes aside, though, let's bring in the other figures that are using the same mold as this one here. We have just recently looked at the Blowout Alien Warrior, who, yes, is using the same mold. A little less of its head behind it, but still using the same head sculpt and same body sculpt. And then prior to that, we had also looked at the Grid Alien. We can get to stand up here. Thank goodness, really, these figures have the wireframe tails. Certainly does come in handy, though, of course, these figures do have the display stands. I continue to test my luck and just having them balancing on their own. When putting them really on their display stands make things so much easier. At least, though, you can see that they are using the same bodies with the Thermal Vision Thermal Vision Alien, in the middle here, quite more bright and colorful than the two on either side of it. If you were lucky enough, though, to pick up the Exquisite Mini Alien Warriors, both the Blowout version and the Grid Alien, then all the accessories that come included with this figure, the Thermal Vision version, are the samesies. And different as well. This man is speaking riddles. Getting, though, to first the samesies, at least the things that are identical to one another, the Thermal Vision Predator, Thermal Vision Alien, I'm going to keep doing that, I'm sure, in this review, has, in fact, the same identical display stand as all the other instances before that, and will continue to be the same instances with future figures that we're going to be looking at here on this channel. One singular peg, right there, will attach to the underside footing of the Thermal Vision Alien. Gotta keep preventing myself from saying Predator. Flipping on the bottom, though, you have few little notches. There's two there. There's two, and two. Take then the eye brackets that come included with all of these figures, and you plug them into these slots. And then providing you have multiples of these, like I just so happen to have here, reaching off to the side, I've got myself another display stand here. You can attach the eye brackets together. And then you've got yourself a larger display stand. Now, again, you can rinse and repeat this until you have enough shelf space occupied, or how many figures you've already collected from the Exquisite Mini line. I have multiples of these, and I really like, again, the idea that you can connect them the way that you can, and they are also universally connected, too. What I mean by that is not necessarily these type of display stands, but also the Predator ones, the RoboCop ones, and the Injustice 2. Some other things that Hiya Toys have also produced all use same plugs with the same universally accepted slots on all the display stands. That's a long-winded way of saying you can basically use all their stands that they've used and released their figures, and you can connect any one of them together. I do sound somewhat long-winded sometimes. Let's move on then to the things that are slightly different and still the same. He's still speaking riddles. The figure comes included with hands. Now, these are the same hands. I'm going to grab just off to the side here. The one came included with the Blowout Alien. See how they are the same mold, but definitely different colors. These hands, by the way, you get 2 of them, are a much shinier looking paint. You can hopefully see right there. Just like these hands alone, the amount of work and sculpting that Hiya Toys puts into something so incredibly small like this, so likely to be lost if I'm not too careful. But these hands, easily just take the figure, just grab one of the forearms. And I guess before I take the hands and swap them out, I want to show you the difference between the two. Taking hand for hand, why is it so slippery? Probably should not have used so much moisturizer. You can see, like the hands, the fingers are a little wider apart. And when you look at the fingers themselves, these hands right here have more curved in fingers, whereas these ones are slightly straighter. I still honestly don't think that they need to include a second set of hands if they're so identical, almost identical to one another. Just use that plastic and use it for something else instead. Anyways, just take the forearm, wiggle the hand carefully off the peg, and then take the hand that you want to use, wiggle it back in place. See how easy that was? I barely sweated when I was doing that. Yeah, so yeah, when you change the hands, I mean, really, I don't know. It still feels like to me like the hands really aren't that much different that justify adding a second set of hands in the figures with the figures in the first place. That being said, though, those are the accessories. We'll move those aside, and then we'll get a closer look now at the thermal vision alien, who actually kind of looks, I would almost consider calling this guy the Crayola alien, because he looks like he certainly has all the colors of the rainbow. He's got some greens, he's got some yellows, he's got some really nice burnt oranges on the top of his dome. And this is all to replicate the idea that this is a thermal vision. This is what the predator is looking at while it's looking at the alien. The hotter colors represent the colors that have the more heat. Of course, the yellows, the reds, for example, and the oranges are what considerably would be the hotter sections on the aliens. Now, I would even say that I think most of the aliens would probably have more colder temperatures. But things that would make sense to be a hotter section would be like the top of the dome, things like around the heart area, if you would consider a xenomorph having a heart. Those areas would be warmer. The things that would be exerting a lot of energy, for example, like the thighs, for example, would be more of a hotter temperature. And then it gets a lot colder when we get down to the feet, for example, and the forearms are a lot colder than the shoulder section. It does also seem to project heat in the tail area, which again would make sense because this is the thing that's going to be whipping and lashing out with. So yeah, there's going to be some additional coloring that they've added in there as well. It certainly can't say, or I certainly can't say, that it doesn't have some bright colors used here for the figure. Now, again, we're going to bring in one of the other figures. I'm just going to grab here the blowout alien. Head sculpt, just overlooking the fact that the whole back section is blown away here, is using what seems to be the same identical head sculpt and same identical bodies as well. Turn it this way as well so you can see. And also on the backs seem to be the same to one another. Hopefully draw no one's attention to the big blown out area to the back of the alien. But other than that, yeah, same head sculpts, same bodies, same tails as well. The one thing about this particular alien, though, is, as I already mentioned when we looked at the hands, everything on this feels really slick to the touch. Not only have they brightly colored this character, but they've also added what seems to be like a clear finish to it. So everything on this, like its arms, its torso, its head especially, you run your finger across it. Certainly doesn't help either that you're using moisturizer, but it is very smooth and slick to the touch. Moving this figure around, you can definitely feel it almost has a wet feel to it, which is kind of interesting because we haven't gotten that yet before. I guess technically the big chap also had a bit of a slick coat to it. I think that really adds a nice extra sheen to the figure when you're looking at it. Nothing does change here when it comes to the mold, so we're going to move like the arms out of the way. It still has the inner jaw, so you can open that up and pop out the little tiny chompers on the inside, which also get afforded some additional blue, as you can see on the end of its teeth. The teeth themselves seem to be more of the colder area of the critter, the alien here. You can see some really nice airbrushed blue added to the bottom section of its jaw. Some additional green, get some nice lighter, almost like a lime green color, a little bit further as it connects to the top of the dome. And some really nice use of greens and blues for the majority of its body. Like the body mold still being the same, but really the coloring that they've added to this is quite incredible. Just really and I find as well, using the green color instead of more of the traditional blacks and the darker grays that they go with usually, I find like the mold seems to pop, and you see a lot more of the finer features on this figure. Little tubes that stick out the end of its body here, the back of its torso, not to mention again the rib cage. Very nice sculpting. Consistent with all of the other AVP alien figures we've looked at so far. It's just, again, a bright color of paint that they've added to this particular figure. Let's talk a little bit about the articulation now. Now, everything's going to be staying the same here. So the head is going to rotate. It's on a ball joint. It can move down. It can move up. It can move back and forth, yeah, and you can rotate it slightly this way as well. The mouth, as we already discussed, does open up, and inside little tiny chompers. Pop those back into place. The figure does have a hinge joint. Not a double hinge joint, just a pin and hinge joint there on the inside of its shoulders. It allows the figure to come out, as we mentioned before, at about a 45. Well, it's not quite a 45. It's about closer to a 90. This arm's just a little more on the tighter side. That's about 90, just a little less than 90. Arms rotate all the way around. Yes, you can hinge the elbows on these figures with also a swivel there on the forearm. The hands also rotate all the way around with a hinge joint happening on the inside. Now, again, it's a hinge joint just because, again, when you're looking at the hands, I'm just going to pop this off for a second, it's sitting on a very microscopic ball joint. Super, super careful you should be when you're applying these hands because they can easily pop off these tiny little ball joints. The figure has an upper torso ball joint. The figure has no articulation here in the lower abdomen area. But what it does have, though, is it has hinge joints on these legs. And the neat thing about these legs is, in the stock way, if you have the legs pushed completely up, you can still move the legs forward and back. But if you want some little extra mileage, just grab the leg and pull it down slightly. And see how it leaves a gap in between the tops of the thighs and the lower half of its abdomen. You can then take the leg and fully give it a lot more mileage when it comes to, I mean, you can rotate them all the way really around if you wanted to. And then just pop those back up when you're finished. The figure does have a double hinge on the knee. There's one and there's two. And then when it comes to his feet, they hinge back and forth this way, and ankle pivot this way. And the figure does have, of course, the wireframe tail, which really does come in handy when it comes to getting these figures to stand. You really don't even need, in some of the cases, to use a display stand. You just use the wireframe tail to compensate for the fact that he has more spindly looking legs. And again, we're just going to bring that tail down just like that. That's a great looking figure. And neat thing too is the fact that they are really just using the same mold before as the grid alien and that blowout alien that we've looked at lately here on this channel, but just adding the brighter color scheme here. It's not even the case where they double dipped with unnecessary colors, giving a bright color to a xenomorph that wouldn't traditionally have been a bright color in the first place. It's bright colors, yes, but at least it's colors you would expect to see. Of course, if a xenomorph is being looked at by a Yautja in a far distance, this is sort of the predator vision of an alien. And I think a strong contender, a really good way to make use of a mold that they already have in their inventory anyways, coloring it in such a way that it makes sense. It's not just like I'm looking at this and thinking, well, why would they have painted this figure unnecessarily in green colors? No, it's predator vision. And all the more reason why, if you didn't already have this one in your collection, a really great piece to be picking up and joining the rest of your exquisite minis you already have right now. Look, I can certainly get behind why a company wants to get more mileage out of their molds. Molds are expensive after all, and if a company can get more figures out of one existing mold, the better. My thing is, though, you have to sell me on why that repaint has to exist in the first place. Yeah, I'm still fine for the idea of buying a lighter blue alien, even if there's no real backstory as to why it has to be light blue in the first place. But if you can at least package this figure with a sell of why the figure has to exist in the first place, like a thermal vision, for example. Now, yeah, this is still the same mold as what we got before with the blowout alien, the grid alien, the alien warrior before that. But at least it can be justified on the shelf. I'm not just buying a colorful looking xenomorph to put on the shelf for just no other reason than it's a brightly colored xenomorph. No, this is the way the alien would have looked with predator vision. So you've got those nice warm spots, the colder spots of the alien figure's body, that even though it is the same body and the same mold as before, I'm getting at least treated to a fresh new take on the same mold. And that's all I really asked for in the first place. If a company wants to release a repaint, that's fine. But give me a logical reason why that repaint has to exist in the first place. I think in a case like this, the thermal vision alien justifies the reasoning for why it exists in the first place. It's just a really interesting use of a cool mold already, but bringing those cooler and the warmer temperature color schemes really does make this an alien figure that pops on your shelf. Really like the look of this one quite a lot. What do you guys think of the thermal vision alien? Let me know down below in the comments section. And again, once again, a big thank you to the folks over at Hiya Toys that did provide this sample, the thermal vision alien, that we can have a look at in this review. Hey, now, if you are new to this channel, you're enjoying the content that you guys have been seeing. One thing that you can do for yourself and for the benefit of this channel is hitting that subscribe button down below. You can as well turn on the bell notification so you're always going to get those reminders of when new videos are going to be popping up. And speaking of which, popping up at the very end of this video, one may find a playlist popping up of other Hiya Toys reviews that I've looked at over the years. It's going to cover everything, not only the aliens, not only the predators, but also the RoboCop and the Injustice 2 figures will all be found in that playlist if you have a little bit of time and would like to check out some of my older reviews. Of course, keep your peepers peeled to this channel while we have wrapped up the review for the thermal vision alien figure. Oh, it's such a sweet looking figure. Definitely keep your peepers peeled because there is going to be more exquisite mini reviews coming your way. Again, thanks to the folks over at Hiya Toys. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.